he just went low. He's in his head. He's in his head. He's open. His head wide open. Cracked open in the face.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Mario Mantis 100 back again with another episode of How's My Team. We had both the Titans and the Giants playing on Sunday. It's Monday morning. So we're going to talk about both of them and mixed results with both games as well. So let's get started with the Titans. So yes, we'll start with the Titans and we'll start with the negative because you know what that means when I say negative. It was another loss for the Titans. It was a 36-20 point loss against the Eels in the dreaded SpoonBowl, or at least the first of the SpoonBowl games this year. And yeah, so yes, we were away from home. The stat obviously was that we hadn't won in Sydney since 2015 against the Parramatta Eels, especially at CommBank. We had not won at CommBank at all since it was first available to use after it had been built. And it's a bit hard to gauge where this team is at, partially because Jaden Campbell did go off with a Category 1 HIA, which means in terms of the context of the game, he was out for the rest of the game. I think he suffered that in the first 20 minutes or so of the game, which didn't help. Things. Had to obviously change things on the fly. We had one less person on the bench since it wasn't deemed as foul play. But yeah, especially when it's your primary playmaker, or at least one of them, it makes it for a much harder game in general. So he'll be out, obviously, for the Cowboys game, obviously coming up on Sunday afternoon this week coming, and also away for the bye. So he should be available to come back in the Broncos game at Cbus after the bye on the 13th of July on the Sunday. So we'll see if he gets back. He gets back relatively well. But yeah, not a great result. Obviously, that confirms that we're on the bottom of the ladder again. It kind of puts us. Technically, we're only 2 points adrift, but we technically should be 3 or 4. So we're a game and a half, maybe 2 games out of getting out of the bottom 4. Just because obviously our for and against is so bad. And that's another 16 points added to the negative part of that in terms of conceding, and we still scored more points as a team over quite a few teams near the bottom here. The Rabbits are down in 16th, Rabbitohs. They got 265, 267 for the Eels, 280 for the Tigers, 219 for the Knights, and 286 for the Cowboys in 12th, and even the Dragons in 11th have got 272 points. So relatively, we're scoring more points than 6 of the teams that are in the bottom 8, not counting us. So it's one of those weird things where I'm hoping that when it comes to it, obviously we've got some games against, I believe we got a game against the Rabbitohs, in round 23, so we've still got a little while left after the bye. It's 5 games after the bye when we fight against the Rabbitohs. But the Eels, I think we don't play them again. We play the Tigers twice in that run as well. And obviously we play Cowboys next week on Sunday during the middle game, the free-to-air game as well. And obviously the Cowboys come off a loss as well last week as well. So they should be pumped up to win this game coming up this weekend. And who knows what happens. I believe obviously Tommy Weaver will be coming back in to the side if he's fit and ready to go to swap in for Jaden Campbell, who's obviously out. But I can't gauge this team honestly, and I think it shows even with the fact that the Eels have Mitchell Moses out, they had Dylan Brown out, so they had their key playmakers, like their first pick playmakers out, plus I think it was maybe a couple of players out of their normal 17 that were also out as well, and we still lost to them by 16 points. It's just one of those things where this season's just been very tumultuous for the Titans in general. They've been very down. I wouldn't say even up and down because they're not even getting too many ups really this season. They've only won they've won 4 games and they've lost 10 already. So obviously finals is pretty much out of the question unless we win a hell of a lot of games coming up. Obviously beating the Cowboys would help with that, obviously because we'll get the 2 points for that and then the 2 points from the bye. But there's a lot of other teams that haven't had the bye yet. They haven't had all of their byes yet. Ultimately, we've had 2. The Rabbits have had 1. The Eels have had 2. The Tigers have had 2. The Knights have had 1. The Cowboys have had 2. The Dragons have had all 3 of theirs, so they're playing straight now. They're playing straight through to the end of the season now. Sea Eagles have had 2, and the Dolphins have had 1. That's your bottom 9. That's 9th right through to 17. So there's still quite a lot of points that still haven't been added in, and ultimately with the Rabbitohs, they're in 2 points in front of us. You add the bye to that. There'll be four games. There'll be 2 games in front, 4 points in front. The Eels are 2 points in front at the moment. They're 4 points in front with the bye. But obviously they'll be in front by 1. By 1 game when we get the bye back in, as with the Tigers as well. But it's just one of those things that I just can't gauge what this team is going to do. Now, ultimately, like I said, part of the issue obviously was Jaden Campbell being out with HIA. That doesn't help when your primary playmaker is out for the majority of the game. But there were people that needed to step up and they didn't step up. So, yeah. 16-point loss in the first SpoonBowl of the year with the Eels going over the Titans. Then on a much happier note, we go to the Giants, and I did actually go to this game as well. The Expansion Cup, probably one of the most contested ones of since its inception, actually. Now, realistically, they haven't had the Cup itself since last year. They hadn't had it in previous seasons before that, but technically, in a lot of ways, it's the Expansion Cup, because obviously these are the 2 newest teams of the AFL competition until obviously the Tasmania Devils join the competition. We'll see when they join and what happens with them joining, because it's a bit of a mess right now in terms of Tasmania. But it was a 7-point win for the Giants over the Gold Coast Suns. Very, very contested game. One thing I will say is that first quarter definitely killed us. It looked like it was going to be a situation where the Suns were going to score 120, 130 points more. in the game after the first quarter because they almost scored 50 points in the first quarter. And the Giants didn't actually score that many. They scored 25 points, which after the first quarter, that's actually pretty decent considering where they were at because the Gold Coast Suns ended up scoring 7 goals 6. So they ended up scoring 48 points in the first quarter compared to 25. Which, I mean, like, even then, 25 points is actually pretty decent considering how much they moved the ball in the first quarter. Then we held them to 1 goal 2 in the second quarter and scored 2 goals and 6 behinds in the second. So we're still behind at halftime, and then we're behind again in the third quarter, and then the last quarter we just threw everything against the wall and scored 8 goals 1. Compared to 3 goals 2 in their last quarter because it was 8 goals 8 for the Suns at halftime. Then it was 11 goals 13, then 14 goals and 15 behinds for the Gold Coast Suns. Whereas 4 goals 1 in the first quarter for the Giants, then 6 goals 7, 8 goals 9 in the third, and 16 goals 10 in the last quarter. So they won by 7 points. It was very nerve-wracking in the last 10 minutes, especially because they were in front by double digits. They got to 100 first and looked like they were going to have to... they'd sealed the game at that point. Then the Gold Coast Suns kicked a quick response goal. So I got very nervous. Then the Giants did score another goal, which was great in terms of the game because they were under a lot of pressure. And I mean, this game, in terms of like the Expansion Cup, probably one of the most important ones since both teams' inception, really. Just due to the fact that I don't think it's been any closer in a lot of these games than it has been this year. Because the Gold Coast Suns right now are actually out of the 8. They have lost a few games on the trot. But it's one of those things where the table is very congested, so we still stay in 7th after everything, because obviously Fremantle's percentage definitely got better, got a big boost against the game against the Bombers. They won by a decent amount, so Fremantle have actually jumped us in terms of table position. They're in 6th now. We stay in 7th. The Western Bulldogs won as well in the late game, so against the Tigers, so they jump into 8th, and the Gold Coast Suns, just by percentage, with a couple of games in hand, taken out of the 8, and they're in 9th at the moment. But there is a four game. I don't know. I'm just trying to do the math. Yeah, 2 games. 2 games difference between 9th and 10th right now, because obviously Carlton went down against North Melbourne, which congrats to North Melbourne. They've been in and around the mix in terms of wins or games that are in winning positions for them, and they finally get over the hump with that. But obviously Carlton were very dominant in that last quarter, but held on for dear life, and they managed to snag a win as well. Which is great for them. I think that they deserve that because they've been in quite a few games. They were in 3/4. They were in 3/4 of the game against Collingwood. They were obviously the draw against Brisbane. So that could have been a win. There's a few games that they've been right in the mix. Obviously against Fremantle as well, going down by a goal in that game. So that's 3 games that they could have possibly won if Collingwood weren't switched on in the last quarter, or weren't as switched on. So you look at that; they're on 4 wins now. They'd be on 7 wins if they won all 3 of those games, and that would push them right up to 10th right now. So great result for them. Fantastic result. Obviously Brisbane winning over the Cats. The Cats are 2 points adrift of the top 2. With obviously Brisbane having that draw buffer. And then that means that it's 6 points between Collingwood and Brisbane at the top. But yeah, great result from the Giants. Obviously the percentage is not going to be nearly as much. It's actually the worst in the top 8 at the moment, with 107.6. The next closest, obviously, is Fremantle's at 110.0. So they're the next worst in the top 8. But percentage, I mean, it's going to be very important towards the end of the season. So we go into the bye, obviously, next week, to rest up a few players. Obviously, get a few players right. Just one of those things. Even we had a few players come back. Obviously, Jake Stringer's one of the big ones that come back into the side. Scored 2 goals, including a very, very clutch goal towards the boundary line. Fantastic goal there. There was some fantastic goals throughout the game, honestly, and there was quite a few players that scored 2 goals. I think there was like 7 or 8 of them that scored quite a lot of goals. So if we go with GWS, you had Jake Stringer had 2, Jake Riccardi had 2, and he had 2 pretty early as well. Jesse Hogan, Toby Green, Cadman, Aaron Cadman with 3, so he was the top goal scorer. Callum Brown had 2 as well. So there was 6 players, I think, that had 2 or more goals during the game, and that definitely helped. That definitely helped a lot of things, because there was a lot of players that kicked goals. So Toby Bedford kicked 1, Tom Green kicked 1, and Harry Thomas scored 1 as well. Fantastic. There's a few players that kicked behinds, but yeah, it's one of those things where a game like this was always going to be tough, and I did say that it was going to be tough in terms of the games that obviously we had in that run since the Carlton game, obviously since even the Fremantle game, really. I didn't expect, obviously, Fremantle to win by that much, but obviously expected to win a lot more against Richmond. Didn't expect to lose against Port Adelaide. Didn't quite expect to win away from home against Brisbane, but obviously it was a great result there. And then obviously it was always going to be a tough expansion cup game for the Giants against the Suns. So we head into the bye, next week, and then we head over to the West to play West Coast again this year. So we'll see if this is a big percentage booster for us, because then the week after that, we go home and we play the Cats. So that's going to be interesting as well. But the run home, obviously, towards finals, the Eagles after the bye, so that's in 2 weeks' time, followed by the Cats, then Essendon, and then the second Battle of the Bridge. I was going to say Battle of the Big Bridge, but that's Final Fantasy. Battle of the Bridge, obviously with the Sydney Swans, which I'm trying to go to that game, trying to get things sorted for that game. It is a Friday night game as well at Energy. Then we play the Bulldogs again, the North Melbourne in Canberra. That's our last game at Canberra this year. Then the Gold Coast Suns in round 23 in Gold Coast, and then to be confirmed on what day it will be for round 24 with St Kilda. And I think partially some of the last round is still to be confirmed, obviously, because they have to fix up the Essendon and Gold Coast Suns game. Like the first one for opening round needs to be fitted in somewhere. So I think they're still holding off on that. I think obviously that's not necessarily the reason why they're holding off on the last round, because they usually do this in terms of the round. But at the moment they're just holding on to that, because they usually hold on to the last round for a couple of, probably about 6 weeks before the final round gets played. But obviously it's another determining factor as well with Gold Coast in terms of timing with their game, and obviously Essendon with theirs as well. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, yes, the bye. Then we head over west to play West Coast, but 7-point win in a very, very tight expansion cup game. and it was a fantastic game to watch. Like, ultimately, if you were there at the ground, because I think it got as high as like 20, 30 points in like the second half, and once the Giants started kicking straight and kicking a lot of goals in that last quarter, the crowd erupted. You could tell that the decibels were starting to turn up as they got closer and closer and closer. But honestly, a game that had 205 points in it, in terms of total points, is a fantastic game to watch, and it was absolutely insane to watch this game. It was great. It was great game to watch live. It probably wouldn't have been as good to watch it at home as it was watching it at the ground. So if you can get out to watching an AFL game, especially if you've got a team in the competition, especially when it comes to a close game like this one, for example, if you're looking at games, say like, anywhere in the table, you're looking at like maybe the Showdown or the Western Derby or even like the Battle of the Bridge with Sydney and GWS. A game like the Expansion Cup, for example, with two teams that are really, really up there. Obviously, Brisbane and Geelong kind of was let down a little bit, but you can see that on paper that it was going to be a fantastic game. Even Brisbane and GWS last week, that was always going to be shaping up to a classic game in its own right as well. There's quite a few games. If you can get out to a game, go out to a game because it is fantastic, and especially if the crowd is there and it's a decent crowd, it's going to be a great game for you. Like even if you're talking about games like say the Anzac Day clash with Essendon and Collingwood, Collingwood have won a lot against Essendon in those games, but a lot of them have been really close. No matter what the positions are from both teams, it's a fantastic game to watch. And if you can get out to a game, watch a game, because I will highly recommend it, especially like with the result and the game that we had just yesterday with the Giants. Obviously, there's a lot of boos against the umpires, and the umpiring, I will say, in the game was a bit average at best. A lot of calls, yes, obviously went against the Giants, but there were some that weren't called for the Giants that should have probably been called. But in terms of quite a few like contentious calls, even for both sides, you could say that the umpiring was a bit one-sided, obviously towards the Gold Coast Suns. But even if I took my bias away from being a Giants supporter, I think that obviously the umpiring in that game was very, very average at best. So they kind of need to improve that a little bit, especially if we're getting to the pointy end of the season, which obviously we're not there yet. We've only played like 15 rounds at this point, but it's one of those things that it's very, very difficult to get into a situation where umpiring can cost games in finals if you make a contentious call or two that is not there. And there's quite a few that were there in this game for both sides, especially against the Giants, but there were some against the Gold Coast Suns as well. So, I'm not 100% saying that the umpires were against the Giants, because there were some calls that I thought that should have went to the Gold Coast Suns that didn't as well. So umpiring just needs to improve quite a bit, and ultimately that has been an issue all season, but especially getting towards the end of this regular season needs to be improved, because obviously this is going to cost a team a finals berth at some point, or a position in possibly even the grand final, or even winning a grand final, and that's not what we want as fans. Like, even as neutral fans, you do not want that to be a situation that happens. So, yeah, sorry about being negative there, but yeah, fantastic result for the Giants. 7-point win over the Gold Coast Suns in the Expansion Cup, or at least the first edition of the 2025 Expansion Cup. And that'll be it for this episode of How's My Team. Obviously, you just seen some pictures, or a couple of pictures that I got over the weekend at the game at the Giants. Obviously, you probably even seen that I had a picture of Supernova for whatever reason. I completely forgot that was last weekend. At the same time, the Giants game was on. So there was many cosplayers around. There was some that looked really great, but I only seen it obviously on the way towards the game, because obviously they had it at the Sydney Showground, like convention hall. So seen it on the way past, and then seen it on the way back. There was quite a few that had photo shoots and stuff like that. Probably should have got a photo or two with a couple of cosplayers there, or even just passing by. But missed an opportunity to, but that's fine. But there was a lot of cosplay that looked really great. There was some Jedis there. Obviously, there was many different fandoms there, in terms of, especially a lot of anime. There was a lot of anime that I didn't recognize. There was some that I recognized. I think there was at least one Hatsune Miku and close near a photo shoot set that I seen. And there was quite a few. There was I'm sure there was a bigger Mario. There was a Luigi without a mustache on the way home on the trains. So that was funny. But yeah, I would love to go to Supernova or a convention at some point. That'd be great, because I've never actually went to a convention really. So would be interested to go to one of those at some stage. But obviously that's not sport related, but it was happening at the same time. So I thought I'd mention it, because obviously you would have seen a photo of that. But in terms of speaking about other sports, obviously the Stanley Cup is now finished, and the Florida Panthers have gone back-to-back, winning in 6 games over the Edmonton Oilers. Kind of sucks that obviously Edmonton couldn't force it to a Game 7, and especially couldn't win the Stanley Cup, but Florida have been a good team all year, and it's funny that the Toronto Maple Leafs, of all teams, gave them the biggest shock of the system, just in terms of playing through to the 7 games, because they were very close. They were very close to losing. Obviously, the Leafs had a lead in that series, as did Edmonton as well, even though, yes, Edmonton, it was only 1 game. But, yeah, it's one of those things that, going back-to-back is hard. 2 Florida teams have done it in the last 6 years, obviously with the Tampa Bay Lightning Bolts doing it as well a couple of years ago, in 2020 and 2021, I believe. It might have been 21-22, just due to the fact that obviously between that, Colorado and Vegas Golden Knights had also won theirs in between. So fantastic result if you're a fan of ice hockey in Florida. But obviously for Edmonton, it's another rebuild situation. I wouldn't say it's like a complete rebuild, but obviously they want to keep a lot of the players that they have. They want to keep hot in terms of making a 3rd final series in a row, which would be fantastic for them, because that'll be very consistent. Obviously not winning one, but making it there is always giving you like a hell of a lot of a chance to win one. So we'll see what happens next season. But yeah, so that means the NHL is done. Obviously EPL obviously doesn't start for quite some time. Liverpool have had a couple of transfers over, a couple of new recruits from other teams. So that's great for them. With the Giants, the Titans, obviously. What else? The NFL hasn't started yet. The girls, should actually mention the women, the NRLW had their trials, and the Titans girls did get up over the Cowboys. Well, it's funny because the team is called the Cowboys, but I guess it's the Cowgirls. But I don't know whether they just call it Cowboys, just the fact that it's not misogynist. And it's a bit of a weird situation. with that, so I'm not, yeah, it's strange. But yeah, so they did win in their trial. Have they got the result here? See if I can find the result. No, it's not on there. I'd have to look on the page, but yeah, the women did win over the Titans won over the Cowboys. Oh, God, I am so sorry. This is so very unprofessional. Yeah, we got it there. 16 points today. There it is. In the trial match. So yeah, so great result for the Titans girls over North Queensland Cowboys / Cowgirls. I don't know. But yeah, I think the rounds for that doesn't start. Let me have a look at the app again, because this is a great outro right now. So the next one doesn't start until the 5th of July, which is not next week's the week after, so it's when we have the bye. So the girls will start on the weekend that we have the bye, and then there'll be a double header on the Sunday with Titans girls playing against the Broncos, and then the Broncos and the Titans playing at Seabus after that. So that's great double header. Love when the competition does that, when they can do double headers like that. So we'll see the Titans, obviously, and the Titans men's next week. We'll see the women's start the week after, and then we'll see how we go with the women's. So we'll talk about the women's game. Obviously, that'll lead up to there'll be more games, obviously, we can talk about, and that will lead up to the grand final, because they'll play the grand final on the same day, if the Titans women get through, which they've done once before, but we'll see how we go. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of How's My Team. This has been Mario Mantas 100. You guys have a great day or night, and of course, take care. Hey guys, future and past Mario Man here. Well, I'd say future in terms of recording the most recent episode of How's My Team, but obviously past in terms of this video getting uploaded. So I'm just going to be in the process of editing the video now. So two things I do want to mention. Obviously with the images that I did show, obviously we're talking about Supernova. I also went on the metro line in Sydney for the first time. Very interesting, very different train. So I did actually get a photo of the screen behind me, behind my cap as well. But very different train than the train obviously I took down from Wollongong to Sydenham, because there wasn't a direct train to Central. So I had to go from Sydenham on the metro line to Central, and that took like 5 minutes. Not even kidding, like 5-6 minutes from Sydenham straight through. First time I'd actually been on the metro line at all. Obviously took the metro line all the way back as well, from Central to Sydenham to take the train home. And it was a different experience and quite a cool thing. So I guess money well spent, I guess. Obviously they still have, some of them have had technical issues previously that I've seen, but I can understand why some people would have been very scared in terms of a door being open with that technical issue happening on one or two of the metro trains over the last like 6-7 months or so, because they go pretty fast. But yeah, it was a cool experience to ride on the metro line from Sydenham. So maybe that might be the standard now, in terms of having trains going from Wollongong, in the Wollongong area, down to Sydney. You might have to take a connecting train on the metro line, possibly, but who knows. But yeah, that was the first experience for me. It was a positive one. Second one, gotta say, the outro kind of sucked, and I apologize for that. Just thought I'd mention that because yeah, I should have things up, but when it comes to things like the trials, when it comes to the women's NRL game, doesn't always show up in the app, which is weird, obviously, because the trials for the men's showed up in the app when they were playing those, but the women's one's not showing up in the app. It's a bit of a weird situation. So apologize for the outro being weird and kind of disjointed and stilted and kind of shit. So apologize for that, but yeah. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video, this section of the video as well. Just wanted to apologize for that, and obviously talk about something that I forgot to mention when I was taking the images off on my Surface. I was like, oh yeah, that's right, I actually did that too, and I forgot to mention that in the video, so I thought I mentioned it at the end. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and this episode of How's My Team. This has been Mario Man 100. You guys have a great day or night, and of course, take care.